Yeah, great to have you with us this evening. Plenty to get through over the course of the next couple of hours. We will start with Liverpool, though. They suffered their 6th defeat in 7 games after a 3-0 loss at home to Crystal Palace in the League Cup last night. Arne Slot made 10 changes to his starting 11 and defended that selection afterwards.
You know, the pressure is there, and I don't think it has changed much after this loss. This club has always used this competition for their academy players. This felt to me as the right decision, but and I haven't changed my opinion about that after the result. Before I went out, I saw City's lineup, and I don't think they had one starter from the weekend. But it felt as if you look at their lineup, they played with their 11 starters. When we played Chelsea, I said they're missing 8, but they can still bring Estevao in. Now we're only missing 4. Already we needed to start with 4 players under the age of 19. And after I made 2 substitutions, we were on 6. Many reasons maybe why we've lost 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7. None of them are good enough to accept.
It is good evening, Ashley Williams.
Thank you.
You were raising your eyes at times listening to Arne Slot there. What struck you most about what he had to say following that game last night?
I think just his post-match comments recently have been. They sound like excuses a little bit, so I think that's probably getting the fan base back up a little bit. And instead of just saying we didn't play good, we've got issues, to sort out whether that. Last night was a little bit different because of the amount of changes and younger players in there, but you'd expect a better performance from his teams, not just last night, but in the games previous also. So it just seems like every time he comes out, he's saying something about something else which isn't related to the actual 90 minutes. Which I find frustrating. They don't have squad depth. Well, okay, but how much money did they spend in the transfer window? So maybe you should have shared that across some other players to get the squad depth, just in case certain players got injured, as we have seen. So if you're a Liverpool fan at the minute, I think it'd be very frustrating. And that man Arne Slot's got some work to do with the players that are available.
Can you answer the question as to whether it was a mistake or not to pick that team until they've played Villa on Saturday?
No, I think that will be in hindsight, because we've seen it for years where Carabao Cup and managers rest players. That's understandable, especially if they've had a high workload. But when your team, it's a difficult one because I was thinking before the game, some of these on the weekend, some of these Liverpool players need to be taken out of the firing line. As experienced and as big players they are, they need a rest physically and mentally. They just don't look at it. At the same time, this was a good opportunity to maybe get the momentum back in their favour. So the manager has to weigh it up. That's what he gets paid for. Ultimately, he put out a younger side and rested the players. Now, the only thing about that is if you're going to give the players a rest, give them a real rest and say, stay away from the place. Maybe go and get yourself a couple of days away somewhere, go and see family and take your mind off football and come back refreshed. But if he's bringing them to the game anyway and they're still training in the morning, that's not really a rest. So I don't understand that. But it's difficult because Arne Slot would have had conversations with those experienced players and they would have probably expressed maybe, today I need a rest, or I would like a rest to be fresh for the Aston Villa game.
So would you have wanted to play as a senior player?
I'll be honest, if it's a League Cup game and you see like 4 or 5 of your teammates getting a rest, you'd probably want the rest as well. If you're the only one player, you want to play in those games. So it's a bit of a juggling act. But on the whole, most players want to play most games, especially as a centre-back. You'd want to play most games.
You spoke about some of the things that he has said post-match recently, including talking about struggling against the low block, struggling against long balls, struggling against set pieces. I'm assuming that's nothing new and that he is saying the same thing to the players in the dressing room. We need to get better at this. But it's almost alerting the opposition. I mean, carry on with this, lads.
Yeah, especially the one. I mean, we could all see it anyway. The struggling with the long ball, which is it's strange because it's not that hard to deal with. We've all conceded goals at the back from a long ball, yes, but you can fix it pretty quick. And then at that one, when he said that, you knew what was coming the next game, and it did come as well. So it's almost like I don't talk about what happened, but to a certain extent without giving away all of the. At the minute, I don't know what they can't deal, what they can deal with. Sorry, because if it's a low block, he's having a moan about that. Well, what does he want teams to open up and and just be easy to play through. They're not going to be. Now everybody knows they can't deal with the long ball. Long bouncy balls are always hard to deal with anyway, but that's a problem. Throw-ins, long throws, they're not dealing with them very well. So that you can get at Liverpool in all sorts of ways at this season.
Yeah, and that is part of the problem. You've spoken about it there, that there was a hint last night about the squad depth, and he says we don't have a big squad as people might think. There was so much focus on the amount of money we spent. People all of a sudden think we have 20 players available, but we mainly have 25 players available, but we mainly have 20 when we have 4 injuries. I think that the problem is that when you have spent so much money, some people might ignore some of the context, because it's a massive amount of money. As you sort of touched on there, no one's going to say, oh, that's a shame, poor old Liverpool.
Yeah, no one feels sorry for them, I don't think, because they spent the money. Now, we couldn't have envisioned that certain players were going to get injured. You're not thinking that way, but
every manager will accept there will be injuries at some point.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to put in your budgets some players, bring some players in that are just going to be squad players, good sparring partners, but good enough for when an injury does unfortunately come, he can go in and slot in and do the job correctly. But Liverpool do look a bit thin. But what's more worrying to me than that is some of the actual starters that would start anyway have been underperforming massively from what we've seen recently. So that would be more of a worrying concern if I was Arne Slot. Not what I can bring off the bench, but why is my 11 that I'm picking underperforming?
We'll get to that in just a moment. But on the point of squad depth, what have you got for us, Dave?
Yeah, well, you touched on it there. Slot has suggested that other sides in the Premier League have deeper squads than Liverpool. So let's compare the 3 sides who are generally considered the title contenders this season. First, let's have a look at the number of players that are available to Slot, Pep Guardiola at Manchester City and Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. We have got here all 3 sides' squad depth by position. Now, obviously, this doesn't take into account injuries. We're broadly evaluating the balance of these squads and whether certain areas are more stacked than others. Now, the deeper the blue colour, the more players available to the manager, and it's actually quite comparable across the board here. Arne Slot, definitely not light. He's got a minimum of 2 players per position, which is similar to Arsenal and Manchester City. Now, numbers don't necessarily equate to the quality of player. So what we can do then is take a look at the 3 teams' squad value. Now, there is usually a correlation between the value of a player and their quality. So we can look at the squad value by position here. Again, deeper the blue colour, the more valuable the players are in that position. So what does this tell us? Well, immediately my eye is drawn to the centre-back position, where Liverpool's options are valued at just over £100 million, well behind Arsenal actually, and Manchester City too. It's Arteta's side that has the most valuable defence, and that is significantly boosted by their strength in the full-back areas. Now, in total, it's Liverpool's midfield which has the highest valuation of the 3 teams, and it's Manchester City's attack that is the most valuable, despite Liverpool's huge summer outlay, and that Manchester City attack, of course, led by Erling Haaland. If you want to know the total value, it's Arsenal's squad who has a total value at just over £1.15 billion.
Thank you very much. I wanted to talk as well about how Arne Slot is using the players he does have available. And it felt like one of the big success stories for him last season was game management, tactically. Now, in the second half of games last season, they scored 7 more goals than any other team, 19 more points than any other side if it was just based on the second half. So he was working things out.
Yep.
This season, it's sort of feeling like he's just throwing everyone at it. All those strikers, all those forward players. He's got games, whether they're chasing an equaliser or a winner, he's just chucking all the forward players at it, and it doesn't seem to work.
Yeah. So those stats are really interesting, because I thought without the stats that he did a great job last season in-game management. But as you say, this season it's the complete opposite. So maybe he needs to just dial it back a bit. I know he's got injuries, but play some players a little bit more consistently in those positions and give them a bit more of a run. And no matter what the noise is outside, what we're saying, what the fans are saying, what everyone else is saying, just back some of the players and play them in the same position every time, so they can gain some relationships. They lost a lot of players last season, important players, They bought really talented players that are playing well for other teams, but they've got to come and play together now, and he's got to mould this. This is where he earns his money, to mould this team together to be that well-oiled machine that he kind of inherited from Jurgen Klopp.
Do you think all the players that they've signed, particularly in an attacking sense, actually fit together?
No, and I can't blame Liverpool for that, because if you've got an opportunity to buy a good attacking player, you buy him, in my opinion, and then you start coaching him how to play with the player behind him or next to him, and you make it work. So I wouldn't blame them for that. But at the minute, they don't look like they're gelling well. You've got the Ekitike situation, which I think, and Isak coming in, which really disrupted the attacking play. Wirtz doesn't look like the Wirtz that we seen last season. So they've got problems. This manager has to think about how he gets his best players on the pitch and all playing together.
We've asked Ashley to turn into Arne Slot for just a moment and pick his Liverpool 11, which he has done. And the significant observation we would make from that, Ash, is that there's no Mo Salah in there.
Yeah, this was... Listen, my head was spinning when you asked me to do this. I felt like Arne Slot. My thinking with Mo Salah was, before the game yesterday, that he just... Looking at him on the weekend, I know all players want to play. He would want to play, but I just think that he... as well as someone like a Virgil van Dijk, mate, they just look like they need to be taken out of the firing line. There's so much pressure on them. Every time they play, what's Mo Salah going to do? We haven't seen Mo Salah. He hasn't scored. He hasn't assisted. He's gone quiet. We'll maybe just take him out of that for a game or two. I like Chiesa. He always looks bang up for every game. He presses well. He's always going to get chances. The quality's not the same as Salah, but I'll put Endo in there because they need some sort of cover in front of the defence. Szoboszlai, I think he's one of the best centre midfielders in the league, but at the minute they need a right back. So it was a tough ask, actually. So we were talking about what Arne Slot can do. Even I had to think about it for a while, but I would keep Wirtz in the 10 because I think he's a quality player. Joe Gomez doesn't really do too much wrong. I think Kirkes is excellent, one of the best left backs in the league, but he looks out of sorts also at the minute. Let's get that combination with Van Dijk and Robertson working back again. Give Kirkes a little bit of time to feel his way into the team. And just go back. They need a clean sheet for starters. They concede so many easy goals. Can we shore up the defence a little bit and then build from there?
It's interesting when you talk about the defence there and the easy goals. And it was something that Jamie Carragher highlighted on the very first day of the season when they beat Bournemouth 4-2, that said the balance doesn't look right between attack and defence. And that you talked about Szoboszlai there. They lose so much when he's not in that 10 position because of the way he leads the press. Yeah. And then to defending, as so many managers, and you would know as an ex-player, say, it starts from the front these days. And when he's not leading that press, it makes it easier to get at them, doesn't it? Yeah,
so you can either press high, but if you're pressing high, majority of the time, that ball's going to come quicker and longer because you're pressing the defenders and they're going to release it unless they're really good and they can play through the press. But what we've seen with Liverpool, they can't deal with a high long balls down the middle or anywhere in the channel. For some reason this season, Konate looks out of sorts. I don't know why, but he looks a shadow of the player he was last season. So if I was with my thinking is, let's not press it so high. Let's have a bit of a block of a 6. Endo and McAllister sitting in front. Let Wirtz do his attacking play. And if they shell it and play it long, we've got 6 players in there. We're not asking them to be too expansive at the minute. Now you go to Aston Villa. I think start off with that. Keep yourself a clean sheet. Stay in the game. Let's not concede early like they did in the last game in the league. And build on that and see what you can get from it.
Can they still win the league?
But of course they can. I don't think they will. I had them down when I saw the players that they brought in. I was like, well, they've won the league like most other people did. I think they've given themselves a bit too much to ask now. So my answer to that is yes, they can, but I don't think they will, in my opinion.
So how do you see the season ending for Liverpool then? Where will they finish in this Premier League table? Head over to the Sky Sports Premier League X account and you can cast your vote.